welcome to Slayerfest 98. I'm your host, Ian Carlos Crawford.
And I'm Justin Fraction.
I'm Angela Rockstar.
And I'm Kimberly Ann Southwick, and we are here today to discuss The Magicians, Season 1, Episode 9, The Writing Room.
Yay! The thing I like about this episode, as I was watching it, I was like, wait, this one actually, more so than the rest of it, only has an A and a B plot, and we stick with the A plot most of the time, and that was so nice, right? I was like, I thought we'd already discussed this episode because I've been background playing, because the TV's behind me in this room, so I just keep it playing, but I'm sitting here, so I hear it, but I'm not watching. Sometimes there's a cabinet here with a mirror door, and I'll open the mirror door so I can kind of look and watch.
This is a very fancy setup.
Yeah.
Well, it's because when we set this room up, that TV, we were like, oh, we'll move the mount. That mount is it does not move. It is probably my dad who put it up years ago. It is attached to the wall so much that the TV is almost flat against the wall. You can't get your hand behind it, and it does not move at all. So getting it off would have been such a pain in the ass. And we were like, well, it'll stay there. So yeah, I in my brain, this was 2 episodes ago. I'm thinking oh, we've already gotten to the end, but yes, I don't know if you all noticed that though, right? Because Julia has her plot, but even her plot, it's shorter, and I actually did really like her plot in this. And I don't know, it just felt like I love the show, I love these characters. This felt like tighter storytelling than we've gotten in other episodes.
Yeah, everyone.
Which is, I don't mean to be disparaging because I do clearly love the show. Sorry, Kim, what were you saying?
Yeah, I was gonna say everyone. It's like in Stranger Things. I love that show, but the episodes at the end of each season are always the best because the gang's all together.
Yeah.
And I just hate when they're all apart because we just love them together. So so I feel like this one, the gang that doesn't even know they're a gang yet together is together. Yeah. We even have a weird pop-in of Marina at one point. Who's part of no gang except her own, but her just briefly being in the Julia plot feels like the gang that isn't a gang is kind of seeing each other.
Marina's in this one?
Oh, wait, maybe she's not. I watched 8 and 9 back to back.
I think it's 8 where she pops in, yeah.
Oh, okay. I was trying to give Julia a gang that wasn't a gang, and I failed. But yeah, anyway, the whole point are 4 beloveds, minus what's her name? Katie. Finally are all together. Yeah. What's weird though to me, because that's the thing that makes this work, is that we don't have Margot and we don't have Katie.
Yeah.
But other than that.
Yeah, it's weird though, I mean, Justin and Angela, you've both worked on in TV and stuff. I keep wondering about did the writer's room at one point be shit, we maybe have too many characters? Because that's why this does feel tight, because they had to drop 2 characters, and if they had those 2 characters, we would have needed a C or a D plot as well. And I don't know, I was like, okay, this is this is an episode that I also remembered because it definitely does the horror ghost stuff really well. Oh, yeah. And I think the show, I mean, I've talked about this a lot this season, the show does that so well with putting the horror in, and it doesn't feel too much. It works with the show. I think they Oh, Kim, you have a rebuttal?
I mean, I don't love horror. And maybe it was just because my 3-year-old was like, what's going on? Every time something gory and terrible was happening. And I don't know where it is, but I had a cloth napkin. I was like, you can't watch this part. So maybe it's too much just for me because my 3-year-old is in the same room.
I remember watching this episode for the first time, and I was just like, wow, they're really going some places with this that yeah. I think for the first, not necessarily the first time, but this was one of the first episodes, and it's the 9th episode where I was just like, wow, they're not shying away from nothing. This is just, they're going to talk about and then it just gets, as the series goes on, it gets more and more, they really are unafraid to broach odd and uncomfortable subject matter at times.
Yeah.
And this was I think the real first kind of, oh yeah, we're going to go there in this show.
Yeah.
In every way. Like there's no rules. We're going there.
Justin, how about you?
This was definitely an episode that stood out to me. I'm like, oh wait, this is that episode. Because I've watched the whole series. There are maybe like 4 or 5 episodes that stand out, and this was one of them because I was not prepared for it to go where it went.
Mm-hmm.
So it was very uncomfortable. But
yeah, it's like uncomfortable, but well done uncomfortable. So it's not, you're not like, this is dumb, but it like also, Jesus Christ, how like more relevant this is now.
Yes.
Because it's like, oh, the magical children's author you loved when you were younger is a piece of shit. And it's like,
yeah,
well, here we are.
And not the first time that we've made this direct reference to that specific author, she who shall not be named, who I just referenced by referencing something in her books. Damn it. Though we have named her before. Yeah, it's funny how that keeps coming up.
Yeah. Yeah, and like back then wasn't when we knew how awful J.K. Rowling was. And I mean, she's not, to all we know, she's not molesting children, but she's still a piece of shit. And I also I don't know, I just like the idea, like you both said, it's like they're kind of willing to go there, and it's like it does add depth to the show that they're like, look, this you know, we spent 9 episodes of Quentin being like, oh my god, these books, oh my god, this author, and then Quentin has to confront like, I feel like that would be hard for anyone, right? It's like their favorite writer, and like retroactively finding out that they were like terrible to these children that they were like quote unquote taking care of, and like, I don't know. I like that they all kind of have different reactions. Like Quentin's clearly heartbroken. Alice is like very traumatized. Elliot's kind of like relating it to like his trauma, and Penny's just like, let's get the fuck out of here. Like, so the episode we open, so Julia's writing that apology letter, and he's reading her apology letter. When she's like, I know I'm not supposed to say this, but you know, we both fucked up. You did it. I'm like, I don't know, girl. Like, you trapped him in his brain in a like institution. I don't know that like that's the time to be like, well, you also, like, I feel like that itself, erasing everything else that they've done, that itself deserves an apology with not saying you also did like some shit, right?
Yeah.
Like, they're not comparable, I don't think. Like,
oh, you didn't invade someone's mind and who's already unstable and then convince no, that's crazy. Literally. And figuratively and it's so toxic.
In her defense, she's rich. And rich people, you know, they just like to compare their lives to other people's in ways that don't work.
That's true. That's true. But I was thinking of it in terms of like me and you, Kim, because they've been childhood friends, and I'm like, I get where Quentin would be like, well, she is like family. I'm gonna be cool with her, and I almost think that's kind of why his reply is only like 2 sentences, because he does still care about her, right? But he's understandably still kind of like, well, like, also fuck you. Justin, give me your hot take.
I just love it whenever like the whole idea that she wrote out this whole long thing and he was like, okay, yeah, sure, thanks. But then later on in the episode, we find out more about that relationship. So she does care about him.
Yes.
But I'm not a fan of invading people's minds on any television show. That's just an instant nah.
Yeah. Yeah. And it happening so quickly before we've like gotten to know the character and love her so we can forgive her, kind of maybe wasn't the best idea, because I remember watching this and just being like, no, fuck her. Like, I can't believe she did that. Like, I wouldn't forgive her, right? Like, but then I'm like, well, they've been friends since they were kids. And again, I think that's why Quentin does that short reply, because he does care about her. She does care about him. They both know that, right? Like, I don't think it's like the other one needs to be reminded that they both know that they are like family. They are just right now, like, not in a good place. We get Quentin shirtless, which I was happy about. And I like that Quentin does, what does he say? Got your letter, guess we're both still mad. Take care of yourself. I'm sorry too. Like,
Mhm.
because also ending it with like, I'm working on forgiving you. When she talks to him. Anyway, so we get
I was thinking like Quentin gave her the, sorry about that or happy for you. Like I read all of that, like whatever that meme is. Like,
that really stay blessed. Like, he tells Alice that like he got the book. That was like what they needed. Alice reminds him they can do a spell. It brings them to Penny. I ping pong back and forth this season so much with Penny. He is so annoying in this scene because my dude, like they're there because this will help save all of you. Why he's so like, oh, you're being annoying. Oh, get that flame out of my face. And like, I want to punch you. And it's like, okay, but you did throw away the one thing that would probably help you all a lot.
He did just lose Katie, and he's dealing with it poorly.
Right. But she didn't die. They broke up, and he will die if they do not help.
Also, she disappeared.
True.
And I don't know. I feel like he's just playing dick. He's not actually being a dick. Like he is telling them what he remembers.
That's fair. So then we learned that he like spilled a beer on the book and threw it away. Ugh.
Yeah. He gave $0 about that book.
I was like, I don't know how Quentin isn't like losing his mind. But I do like when Penny's recounting what like Quentin's like, you need to tell us, and he's like, it was a dog. No, wait, it was a pig. Wrong, no, it was, and then it's like a fucking ferret. And I like that each time he says it, we see a new animal in a little like
same.
It's great.
That was great writing.
Yeah,
it was really good. Too.
I wrote this down, but even I'm unclear. It's like the animal grants her. So the animal, Jane Chatwin is encountering an animal, and it grants her a wish. What is the button? Like, I understand the button is like the point of this, but I was like going through this episode still not clear. What, Kim?
It's a portal. It's like a key.
Oh, okay. Because I know
it's like door.
When they said the button is the key, I thought they meant like a metaphorical key, not like a
literal.
It's like key to solving the problem, not like it's a key to get in somewhere. Okay, that makes more sense.
It's like one of the many doors of Fillory. They talk about all the different doors of Fillory a couple of times in these last few episodes. So yeah, the button's like a door.
Okay, that makes more sense. Quentin's like, we got to go to Christopher Plover's house. He asks how they can get there. Penny has already teleported there. And again, he should have just fucking brought them with him. Whatever. But he can't do that, I think, right?
Can he?
I don't think he can do that yet.
Yeah.
I don't know if he hasn't shown us that he can.
Yeah, he found out how, though.
Right.
When he rests. Right?
No. Oh, wait. No,
doing
not
no
yet.
spoilers, so.
Oh. Sorry about that. Sorry
the way we're always like,
Because really what happens, and I think everybody probably does this, you're watching it and then you just let it play and you watch the next one, and then you watch the next one, and then you watch, so you're like, oh yeah.
In the previous recording I brought up, and I watched the episode right before recording, but I had binged all of it. I was like, yeah, and then Julia goes to see that woman and she doesn't know what she has to do, but everyone was like, that's not this episode.
It's a really cohesive show.
yeah.
I guess. I mean, even though Penny, not correct me if I'm wrong, but feel free to disagree. Even though it makes Penny look like a jerk, I kind of like that we get that sixth book through his perspective rather than like Quentin reading it and like, you know, we've seen him nerd over every single other book and like spitball like nerd stuff about it, and that kind of goes in one ear out the other to the people listening.
Yeah.
But them intently listening to Penny like tell the story how it's not from the original author and someone else wrote it, and like the little details that he does give. I don't know, like I think it just makes for a better TV show, regardless if it means that, you know, Penny's a dick for throwing it away.
Yeah, no, I mean, like, I agree with that. I do like, and it's more fun hearing someone who was half paying attention.
And I think it shows character development that like he's not completely ignoring them. So, and that he did throw it away, right? Like,
that's fair. Yeah. They go to Physical Kid's cottage. I like that Elliot's with that guy whose name he can't remember. And what does he say? Ronald gives terrible head. It's not his fault. TMJ. And so he says he wants to help them. He wants to like, there's a door him and Margot, because of course they did, made to their favorite pub in England. I feel like the next time when I finally talk to Summer on the podcast again, I am curious why she is billed as a main cast member. She is not in 2 episodes in a row. And that's, I don't know, that's kind of weird that she's just not in these episodes. But like Katie's in every episode, but this one and the last one, I think. And Katie's billed as special guest, that actor. So I'm like, because, right, Justin, isn't it normally like the deal is you're like on all the episodes if you're a main cast?
It's a contracty thing. Just, yeah. Yeah.
I guess it depends.
Could it have been that she was like doing some other work, or there was something like going on in her personal life that she needed those 2 episodes and they just wrote her out of it? Like, all right, we can make this work. Maybe. That's true. I don't know. It might have been something like that as well, because it really doesn't make sense to not have Margot all the time everywhere.
Yeah, and like I would have loved to see her with these ghosts, because I feel like she would have like been so annoyed at that aunt immediately and really cursing her off. But I do think it's almost, I said this last episode, it's almost like for Elliot's character, whatever they're doing, to not have Margot there, right? Because she is his rock, and like she would be able to be like, hey, let's fucking talk about this. Yeah. And he doesn't have her there to like do that with. So it's like we see him kind of being a dick because he's also more so than Penny mourning the fact that he had to murder his like kind of boyfriend.
And that if Katie's in this episode, it plays out completely different, because then she would have been like blowing things up and attacking people. Plus she probably would have had issues working with Penny, and I don't think the whole thing would have worked with her there. Yeah, no, I think that's true. So then we get Julia's story, and we'll just expedite Julia's story like we often do. This one isn't that long. I actually genuinely did love this. I thought it was like pretty touching and like well done. I liked that when she wakes up in that coffin and she's like, someone saw Kill Bill. And I like she's getting more confident as a witch with her like magic, when she's like, I made myself impervious to fire. So she just lights the coffin on fire, which is fucking cool, right? Like, I would also do that if I was impervious to fire. I'd be like, let's see what it looks like when I'm like lighting everything on fire around me. Oh, cute. And we get this woman who we learn what about her, Kim?
That she is a witch who had a spell go wrong, and that's why she's sort of trapped in her own mind. And it seems like Richard has brought other people there before, like to join her in her brain from the beginning. We don't just learn that at the end of this little B plot.
And I think that actor is really good, and I think the two of them having like quieter scenes together really worked. And I think we needed this for Julia, right?
Yeah.
Like, because we haven't gotten a lot of her other than like her going through terrible shit, her being awful to Quentin, her being shit on by Marina. And I thought this was really like giving her depth and humanizing her way more than we had. And the fact that she's so sweet with this woman, right? Like, the acting there is very like, this is someone who does care about people. This is someone who, like, you know, when the woman tells her like, oh, me and my girlfriend used to come to this park, you know, my best day was in the rain in this park. We did a spell with rainbows. And she's just like, that sounds really beautiful. I don't know. I thought it was like really touching, and like, I don't know. I cried in this for this part. But you know, also Ian there's a lot of grief going on, so maybe it's that, but I don't know. I just thought it was like really fucking sweet. The woman also, I've been saying this a lot. The woman also says that magic, like she wasn't born a magician, right? She went to MIT. It's all science. That's how she learned it. I fucking love that. 2, I swear to God, I need to find out who in the MCU loved the magicians, because Doctor Strange came out after this, right? And that's how the magic is in the MCU. Like Doctor Strange says it's like science and blah blah blah, and like
And they
it
do all
even
that
looks the
hand
same.
stuff, right? Yeah.
That's how magic is everywhere, Ian. Not to steal the
Like,
secrets.
but like even the way it comes up and stuff.
Yeah, like sacred geometry, and that math is the language of the universe, and that's very pagan. It's very hard. It's the hardest thing for me to actually grasp in my studies because I have a math problem. So
I'm also good at math.
I have a math disability, like a cognitive math disability, and a lot of the things that are learning the keys to the universe, it's all sacred geometry and mathematics. So it totally makes sense to me why this scientist is, I mean, alchemy, any kind of these studies, these occult type studies are really focused in a lot of math, a lot of geometry, a lot of algebra. Like it's everywhere. Crazy.
Is it? But like even like are the hand movements like that too? That's like kind of what you do.
Yeah, I mean, you know, in the Hindi studies and things, there's different mudras that you would do, and that goes across the board in other cultures as well. Some of those same kind of hand positioning things, which is interesting, but not exactly. I mean, there's a lot of like, sometimes what they do reminds me of like if you were at a rave and somebody was giving you a show, you know. It's not all of that, but
Angela, our resident witch and rave expert.
And we find out that the woman wants Julia to kind of like do assisted suicide with her.
Well, before that, though, there's that spell that she has Julia write down that I think is important to mention. The one that put her in the position of where she's unable to really experience the world except through her mind. And so that's like most of the flashbacks are them like talking about this spell and like having these other, we don't get too much of that, but Julia's supposed to write down this spell from memory as Kira finishes telling it to her. And then, yes, after they've written all the spell down and Julia promises that she'll remember it, then yeah, the woman wants Julia to kill her.
Oh, right, because then the thing that also endears me to Julia is when Julia shows her like best day. And it's wild that Quentin's not even in this scene, but for me that does a lot of building for their relationship, showing that like they were 10 and they were sitting they were laying under this table and they drew like the maps of Fillory. Like that is a detail I wish we had gotten way earlier on, because it's a very sweet moment, right? And it feels like that's something you would do as a kid, right? Like lay under a table with your best friend and like pretend to like you're in a fantasy world or like whatever your favorite thing is. Like
for me it tied into the idea that, you know, her best day is with Quentin, of course, but she also cared a lot about Fillory. It wasn't just I want to do this thing too that Quentin. No, she really did care.
Yeah.
And I like that line. There's one line that she says that just does so much work in so many different ways, some of which we can talk about, some of which we can't. She says, it's like we were going, like she's joking, oh, like we were going to visit. And I was like, oh yeah, I don't know if she quite knows Fillory is real yet, like everyone else does. And then she says, we were playing, but it felt real. And I wondered if this was like a clue that was, because so much of, if you've seen of episodes after this, so much of what they're doing are leaving these little breadcrumbs. And I was like, I don't know if that's an actual clue or not, but it feels like a little breadcrumb.
I think so.
Yeah.
I mean, obviously didn't notice it the first time I watched it.
I mean, Angela, right? We were talking about that. There's been so much shit this first season where it's oh wow, that's brought up again. Like what there is. So like I said, I've binged all of this. And I think the next episode or maybe 2 episodes from now, they bring up a very specific thing that is not shown again, that is not like touched upon till like season 4, which I loved.
I liked how at the end of the previous episode, there's like a sort of big reveal that Eliza is Jane Chatwin. And that's like that's it. Like the next time she gets mentioned is when Penny's talking about how she wrote these books. And I guess like I don't know, like we as the I've noted for that previous episode that we as the viewers now know that Eliza, who is no more, was Jane Chatwin. But Quentin kind of just brushes over that when he's like, "Oh, Jane Chatwin wrote it." So I don't know. It's interesting that like, oh, like we know these are real people, but we're not quite yet like making the same
I
connections that your audience has been able to make. I thought that was cool.
I was gonna ask like, what did everyone? Because I think it's weird that they breeze by the Jane Chatwin reveal. Like,
Yeah,
she's dead. Like that episode, we find out she's Jane Chatwin and she dies, and it
yeah,
feels like no, that was. But because the show is the show, I do feel like that is an on purpose choice,
yeah.
right?
I
Like
agree.
they want to not make it. They want to like undercut this big reveal because that's how the show operates, right?
Yeah,
I
like
don't
in
know,
this
Justin.
little moment
Oh yeah,
where we get this map. Anyway, sorry. Yeah,
yeah, Justin. What do you think about that?
It's funny because we were just talking about, well, not just, but whenever I was on the show last time, we were going over just sometimes they don't really care about certain things, and
Yeah,
sometimes they get dragged on. And this episode's kind of fun because there are people that die, and you're like, oh, well. And there are people that are dead, and you're like, oh, I feel bad. I'm like, what? Okay. Yeah. Their reality is like that. So,
yeah, yeah, right. And I do think that's on purpose. Like totally, it's not like a oops, we didn't stop pause on the Jane Chatwin reveal. It's like no, we're gonna keep moving because
yeah,
whatever.
For
Um,
for the things that are not in the books, and I haven't read the books in a while, but for the
yeah,
things that are not in the books that the show does, I would love to know if you get to talk to any of these writers, if they were sitting in the room when they wrote it and they said, let's remember this and use it later, or if they're writing later on and they go, hey, do you remember that one random thing that we slightly mentioned? Should we bring that back in and make it really important? Like, I'm wondering if they worked forward or worked backward. It's so hard to tell. And when you
yeah,
rewatch it, you know what's coming and you're just like, man, they really killed it at this. Like this is foreshadowing it on a level that I was not ready for. Like, it's so good. So I wonder which way they wrote it, you know?
I'd be curious about that too because Lev Grossman told us, right, Kim, that they would ask him, like the writers would consult him, and like they did that because they liked the books because like they didn't actually have to do that. Like this is the show that's being written. They didn't have to pass anything by him, but he said they would often be like, "What do you think of this?" And that he even admitted, right, Kim, that he sometimes would be like, "Oh, I don't like that," but then he would think it 100% worked once he
yeah.
saw
They
it.
would just do it anyway.
Yeah. um, and I that must be like cool to be able to do, right? It's like, oh, you also like the books, you also still like keep the writer in the loop. Um,
And he
because I
loves
feel
the
like,
shows too. So yeah, like
yeah,
that's I love that.
yeah, he very much clearly loves the show, and like, he asked if he could come on again for some episodes. Like that's how much he loves the show. Yeah.
Dope.
Um, and like I always try not to bother people, so I was like, Ian, don't push it. But he at the end of recording, he asked, and I was like, yeah, fucking of course, yeah. Like, um, but yeah, so then we see the moment of that, like, was her favorite day, and then the woman says, I need one
They
more thing
finished it.
from you.
Mhm.
And I don't know, what did we all think about that? Because I, one, understood Julia's anxieties over it, but two, also understood why that woman would be like, please let me go. Like, I'm miserable. I'm stuck in my brain. I'm not coming out of this. So I liked that the show does like morally gray areas so well with like
Yeah.
nuance, and like it doesn't always go the way you think it's gonna go, kind of like the end of this episode. But yeah, I'm curious what you all thought about that.
I always think about this a lot because I think, like, what if I was in that position? And I always
Yeah,
try to tell people what I would want to happen if I was in that position. It's so, you're right. I liked what you said, morally gray. There's so many in this show, and
yeah,
this is one of them that for me, I remember when I first watched it, it it was almost like, the episode obviously keeps going, but that really stuck with me and I really thought about it. Is this right? Does this feel right? What do we think of this in our world and in our like in the ways that, you know, we keep people alive or we don't, and that's your loved one's decision making, and like there's a lot to that. So it gets you thinking, if nothing else, if not concluding, at least
Right.
thinking.
Justin, what do you think?
I liked it when Kira said to Julia, "I'm allowed
Thank
to
you
be."
for naming her so I can use that name moving. Thank you.
I did. I was like, "How do I put that?" Yeah, I was like, when she said, "I'm allowed to be done." It's
Yeah.
just, it's her choice. She wants to do this, and there's I think his name is Richard Corrigan on the show. I'm
Yeah.
just like Mackenzie Aston. Okay.
I also forgot his name, so thank you again.
Well,
Richard, yeah.
I take notes, Ian.
I take notes when I say that guy, that lady.
Yeah, like it's part of her. Without spoiling, it's a turning point for this character.
Yes.
So
yes.
yes.
Mm-hmm.
And so like, and not to be too grim, but like, you know, I thought of my mom was very my mom when she was in the hospital at the end, and she was like, you know, hooked up to a million things. And my mother, as we're like discussing it, she goes, "Ah, just bite the bullet, pull the cord." And like literally said that from her hospital. Like she was very done. And like my dad was like, I kind of was like, I support whatever decision we make. Like I don't really have a say in this, but I support either decision because I understand both. And I genuinely did. I understood why my mom took it as very, I had a good life. Just like do it. I know I'm going to die. And I get that, but I also got my dad being like, well, no, we should wait longer. We should wait longer. We should wait longer, because there's the Julia of it all where she's like, but what if there's a cure tomorrow? What if suddenly someone has a cure? And I know that like if I were in Julia's position, I would feel the same way, right? Like, what if tomorrow they're like, oh, there's a cure for this thing that you just like did assisted suicide with this woman with, and I would feel fucking terrible, right?
Yeah.
And Justin, I love that you made that point, because that is very true. This all ties back to Julia's story moving. Like, I almost feel like this is more her origin in the show than like any of the other previous episodes, right?
I was going to say, piggybacking off of that giving these kinds of rights, funeral rights, birth rights, things like that, is a part of becoming a clergy member in a lot of these magical, I mean, that's a part of it, you know, or even the three major religions. Like if you're a spiritual leader, you're going to do that type of stuff, which she may or may not become. We don't know, you know.
Who knows?
Who knows what'll happen?
Actually, all four of us know, but but Kim, what did you think of it? I'm curious.
I liked what y'all had to say about it. I guess the only part I don't like about it is that it is about Julia.
Like more so than...
Yeah, like it's about her growing as a character. It's about her character. Richard's like, she's like, what am I supposed to do? And Richard says whatever is hardest, and like, but it's like somebody's life. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Somebody's death. Like it makes it, because it's about Julia. It just takes the effect of it, like the whole thing off of Kira for me, and that feels a little wrong. But other than that, I like what all of y'all said.
Yeah.
Okay. I could see that. I guess for me, I thought of it like Kira's just tired. Like she's been like this for a while. She's tired of like living in this park in her brain. And it's almost, I felt it almost as though like her story has been done. She's waiting for someone to like fully finish it for her, because she can't do anything. I also really liked the way it was shot. Like it was brighter and sunnier than most of the like scenes in this. And like when she tells... I fucking cried when she tells Julia, no, you should go. They can't find you sitting next to my dead body. And the lights start dimming in her world. So good. And like Julia wakes up crying. I thought that was so well done.
It's beautiful.
I'm gonna fucking cry talking about it. So someone else say something.
Well, that does bring us back to the A plot, because that is the end of it, unless we'd like to talk more about Julia sobbing and these other heartbreaking, heart-wrenching things.
Yes, so we go to the Plover estate, right?
Well, there was one line that I really liked that Kira said to Julia. Something about, if the world is... I had it written down. If the world is after you, then take it as a compliment. Something like that.
Yes.
Yes. The world never likes a smart woman.
Yes.
Something like that.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great line. You're right.
Yeah. And like, yeah, that's why Yeah. Another reason why I love this, because that woman, it almost felt like that woman understood Julia better than a lot of the other characters that have encountered her, right? And I appreciated that, because while Julia is doing a lot of work to make me not forgive her, I still don't want her being shit on consistently as she has been this season. And it's nice to see one character who is like, I understand your pain. I understand you are like going through terrible shit. Like, Tim, you even said the quote is like, the world doesn't help smart women. Like, this woman extends kindness to Julia that she has not been extended. Wait, what was his name again? Richard. That's what you said, Justin. Richard kind of is, but then I'm almost like, well, but then this dick is doing this where he's putting this on her, and that's not fair to Julia to be like, surprise, this is what you're doing. Like, you're going to this lady's brain and she wants you to help her, like, pass on. That's not fucking fair to do that as like a surprise.
Yeah, that
but
is.
I thought this woman was very fair to her. Right?
Like, what are we doing today, babe? We going to the spa? We going to lunch? Oh no,
And wait, there is one more thing that I do like that Julia says after the coffin when she appears next to Kira. She's like, what is it with magicians and constantly testing? Because like we do that so often. I'm like, on the show consistently, that is a thing, right? Like, I would also get tired of that. Be like, we did this like 10 times already. Yeah, Kim, you would be like, great, another test. So we go to the A plot.
Let's talk though first, before they get to the Plover Estate, how the name of Margot and Elliot's favorite bar is The Ball and the Sack.
I did not even realize
their favorite pub. I was like, wait a second, what is that? And it's like you get just a flash of it, and yep, that's what it says. Importantly, that's the name of their favorite pub. So anyway, from there we go straight to the Plover Estate.
That is an important detail. Thank you, Kim, for pointing that out. I do like that we get to see Q nerding out. Like, I was very charmed by like the like really bad selfie he takes of himself that's like this angle, and he's like smiling all goofy because he's like excited.
He's at his like Disney World. Like,
yeah.
This is the shit for him.
And like even later on, right? He even says to Alice, he's like, would you break up with me if I said this is the happiest I've ever been? Like, I don't know. I know people get annoyed by Quentin, but I am consistently relating to him. And I'm like, oh, he's really depressed. And this like piece of fiction being like in this house that's like, a big deal to him. He's like actually happy, which we hadn't quite seen.
Even though it's all about to become crashing down, we'll give him these moments.
Right. Yeah. Like right after this.
Let him be happy. Let him be geeking out. No, it's endearing and cute and almost like, yeah, when you tour anything that I don't even know. I guess history buffs it's just so he was loving it.
Yeah.
Living his best life for this.
I love when the tour guide's a dick to him. And he's like, oh, you better come up front. I might not be able to do this tour without you.
But also the tour guide has every right to be like, this motherfucker. Like, I'm just doing my job.
He smiles and says it so genuinely that I'm like, is he being a dick? He's being a dick. Yeah, I thought that was good.
That was probably so real for tour guides because you get like any kind of nerd from any kind of fandom and they're like, actually, no.
I mean, people do that with me all the time on the internet with like when I do Buffy content and I'm like, motherfucker, do not try to tell me about Buffy. Like, that is playing 24/7 in my head and I know every single episode, so don't try to tell me about anything. Like, I'll get people to be like, oh, you forgot the best line. It's like, no, I didn't forget it. I just didn't put it in this post because I know the next line. Anyway, Kim, sorry I interrupted you.
I was going to say, before they break in, especially because we were watching this as a rewatch, and I know some of our listeners aren't necessarily rewatching it, I paid a lot more attention to what this tour guide was saying, knowing what we know by the end of this episode about Plover. And just the tour guide being like, he so understood children. And like whatever this quote is from, I don't know if it's a Plover quote or from like one of his books. He says, there's no substitute for a childhood of adventure, love, and warmth. And just how the owners of this estate to this day are perpetuating this lie. And like, but also like telling us the thing
Right.
without saying the thing. I thought that was pretty well done.
Yeah. No, I like that too.
Yeah.
But I was gonna ask, like, the tour guide absolutely knew everything, right?
Yes, must have.
Like that,
It's not
right?
directly said. Sorry, Justin. I feel like you were going to say something, and I opened my mouth first. No.
Oh no, I wasn't gonna say anything. I was like, I'm like, oh yeah.
I feel like yes. I feel like that's unclear, but yeah.
Yeah, and so we get like we also there are a lot of info dumps about the Chatwins. I forgot there was a third. What is his name? Rupert? Was that his name?
Rupert. Yeah, there's
Because Justin, see you. Because when someone said, "Oh, I think it's Quentin," is like, well, actually, Rupert came later. I was like, who the fuck is Rupert?
Yeah.
And like, I had to look that character up because I was like, I have no idea what he's talking about. But that's the other Chatwin sibling, who I genuinely have no idea what happens to that person. He's like the older brother. I don't remember him.
We'll find out, I guess, or we won't.
Yeah, or we won't. Yeah, so then they like, they go through the tour, whatever. At night they break in. The way they made it immediately a creepy haunted house, I loved that.
Just
and
the shots. I loved the shots, like through the grate, and then we're like looking through the door. It's like they don't even have to say this house is haunted. Just the way that we're watching the characters through the perspective of who they're being watched by. Like you just get that.
Yeah, they make it like creepy immediately. This is when, I do like the conversation Quentin and Alice have here. I mean, this is where he ends it with saying, like, would you break up with me if I said it was the happiest I've ever been? But like he says like his brain breaks sometimes, and like his dad brought him these books when he was super depressed. And I feel like all four of us can relate to like sometimes when you're super depressed, like going into some like fictional show, book series, whatever, really can help, right?
Yeah.
Like,
Absolutely.
and I like that that's what he was saying. Like, oh no, I like this isn't a new thing. I've been depressed since I was younger, and these books help get me out of like a like particularly bad part. And then I really like what Alice says. Do you still feel like that? Your brain is broken. And he says, I feel like it never really fixes. It just works better now in its own screwed up way. And like, that's some good writing, I think. I don't know. Am I being too genuine? I don't know.
No, not at all. That's growing up neurodivergent,
Yeah, like,
and it also really helps.
You just adapt.
Yeah.
And also helps with all the info dump stuff that we do get, like these moments between the characters that are genuine and that are relatable.
Yeah. Yes.
Because we're about to get info dump.
Right. Elliot's like, stop lovebirding, because he's broken into the safe. Q finds a letter from Pulliver's sister, Prudence. He never died. He just went missing. And I, especially knowing what we know, because, we've watched even just in this episode, I like seeing Q trying to do the mental gymnastics when he's like, oh, see, all these kids went missing. And then it looked bad for him because he was missing. But it, people started thinking something was wrong, but there was nothing wrong. They actually just were missing and fillery. But like, he's connecting the wrong dots. But like, who wouldn't, right? Like, if you don't straight up know that's what happened, you wouldn't go to, oh, my hero was probably a child molester. Like, you would think like, oh no, something happened. People just assumed. And I do like watching Quentin find it all out in real time. Like, he's getting the evidence slowly but surely. And then once it's like literally in front of his face, he's like, fuck. So the kids all went missing. Prudence wanted a death certificate because everyone was talking. Elliot says he loves a good cover up. And that's when we see, a shadowy figure walk by, and Alice is curious. Elliot hands Quentin his flask and says it never empties, which I loved.
We also get the part where Penny is looking at the bookcase.
Right. And then he says about...
I like how he names the like textbook authors, because I'm like McCabe, Livingston, and then like immediately they tell us what it was. Well, because I'm like trying to figure out, like, I should know. Like, he was studying magic, and then he names the three other ones, and everyone's like me in that second where they're like, we don't know those authors, and he's like, yeah, you wouldn't. It's Traveler. It's like Traveling 101. Yeah. So it's just a fun moment where like we're us, and then they're us too. I don't know. I thought that was good. It was just a little bit. So we know he's trying to get to Fillory. That's like the important part there.
Right. And we learned that what like Martin and Christopher Plover weren't like allowed. Like Martin was eventually like banned from Fillory or whatever, right? Like he
Yeah,
just
he
wasn't
was talking
allowed.
about that in the beginning, right? Like before they talk about the books, he's saying how Fillory is always deciding when to let them in and when to let them back, and he feels like that's what happened to the book. Like it's not that he lost it, but that Fillory somehow took the sixth Further and Forever book away from him because they didn't want him to have it anymore. So Fillory's like throwing up its walls against certain children for specific reasons that only Fillory knows. So we get that in the beginning as like a reminder because Q's relating it to himself, and then we kind of see it happening when we. And in the future of this haunting, we kind of see that exactly happening where Martin's shut out and Jane goes right in.
Yeah.
I was just going to say, I don't know if it's in this episode or if it's even on the show or in the books, but they say why that's happening.
They don't tell us yet in the show.
Okay, but they do later. It's in the show.
Maybe.
Maybe. Sorry.
I did a binge and I'm genuinely not even sure.
In the book,
it might be just in the books.
I don't know if you do you want me to say it just so you guys
for the
know?
Books? Yeah, if it's just for the books, that's fine.
It's the loss of innocence.
Okay.
As in, like you're no longer a virgin.
That seems pretty brutal for Fillory to do that to Martin because he was fucking molested. Jesus Christ.
Which was a little weird, and I can't remember if that was in the show or if I read that in the books, but I thought either way I was like, well, that's weird, especially because Fillory's so weird. Like,
yeah.
Like, what does that even mean? Like, we're like later on, aren't that? Yeah. Anyway, so it might have been in the book. It was something of the loss of innocence that prevented him from going, and that's why he was the only one because. Yeah, he ends up being the only one.
Is Martin? Are we supposed to assume Martin's the only one that Plover molested?
Yeah.
Okay, and Prudence was just awful to those other kids, but like
she didn't want them to talk.
Right. She didn't want them to say anything about what was.
I wasn't sure if we were supposed to assume he molested the other little boy, who we see get killed, or if like that boy just knew what was going on.
He knew what was going on. He's seen it, but he didn't say it happened to me. So
okay, that's fair. Yeah.
From reading Lolita, Vladimir Nabokov's book, it seems as though pedophiles will have like a certain very specific age that they go after. Right, so I don't think George was old enough for Christopher Plover yet. Again, that my background research is very scant in one fictional novel here, but
I mean, it's been a while since I read Lolita, so but that sounds about right. So they encounter the tour guide. I like that, Penny's like, are you mad or are you scared? And Elliot's like, is this something I'm going to fix with money? And then he's like, you know what? Fine. We're supervillains. Tell us what we need to know. And that does some like magic. Yeah. I love Elliot being like, because this is very him and Margot. Like, all right, I'm annoyed. I need to move this faster. I'm going to like say shit that will scare this person.
Speed it
along. The guy, what does he even tell them? I forget what he tells them. It's like something about Prudence that he gets like pulled backwards and then like brutally killed.
She'll, we can't talk about that. She'll be here or something like that. She'll hear us from what I remember.
Right. Okay. Yeah.
Those lines and then
he says she didn't want anyone to know the unnatural things that her brother gets cut off, gets the stitches. Okay. Yeah.
Yeah. And then we see his body and his like neck his throat is slit and his like lips are sewn shut, which is pretty fucking brutal. Again, this is like a horror thing that sometimes horror movies do this too. A little inconsistent because I'm like, why didn't she just do that with everyone in the house? Like, I don't know. Once they started doing magic, why didn't she just pull them and stitch their lips and kill them? I'm glad she didn't, but
maybe it's the sort of thing where because she's a ghost. She can only do certain things if, like, certain things are said. Like, maybe because they didn't say the thing out loud and they don't exactly know quite yet.
Fair.
Ghost rules.
Because I don't think I don't think she has full, like, jurisdiction over, like, she can do whatever she wants in the house to people in real life. It seems to be, like, the house is cursed in a really specific way where if XYZ happens, then XYZ happens.
True. That's fair.
And
All right.
as you mentioned, yeah, it's since he was the only one that actually knew, he was the biggest threat. So
That's
if she
true.
can only do something to one person, she
It'll
went
be the
after the
one that knows.
non-magician. Yeah.
Yeah. They get out of the house. Q and Penny get out of the house. They realize Alice and Elliot are stuck inside. I do like when they go back in and Q says the house is haunted as shit. And while the lights are blinking, he's like, okay, Jesus, we get it. There are ghosts in here.
Yes, I love that.
I do that. This show always does that really well. It's like these characters are like not that pressed about it. And like, they're going to be like, all right, fucking whatever. Like, and I mean, that makes sense, right? They live in a magical world. So yeah, like, sure, ghosts are real. Sure, why not? Because we're encountering all this other weird shit. And Elliot and Alias...
Elliot and Alias. I love
Elliot and Alice wake up where, Kim?
They're tied to some chairs, their hands are stuck, and they're having some creepy tea party with a creepy child that seems normal at first, and then there's like light. We get this light flickering kind of between the present and the past, and turns out she is creepy, like the little boy who wanted to play tag with Quentin and Penny from the previous scene.
Yeah. And I like watching when she's like, do you want some snacks? And Elliot's like, sounds divine, thank you. And he like, it's the snack she gives him.
The little girl giving him the snack. Is that why Alice drinks the tea? I don't understand why she drinks the tea. Seems
right?
Like she watches Prudence drop the stuff in it.
And the little girl goes, like, shakes her head no.
Like, no, don't do that.
But I do the I mean, which is very the show, but also is very like the Haunting of Hill House, where it's like the ghosts actually aren't like these like spooky children are not the bad guys, right? They're just like the spirits of these tortured souls, reliving their trauma, which is the plot of The Grudge. Where it's like they're not, Kim, for your information, that is a Sarah Michelle Gellar horror movie, where like she's in a house and it's like they're ghosts, but they're not really ghosts. It's like the spirits of a violent crime that like gets stuck in a loop.
Pretty sure I saw the preview for that one and was like, nope.
Justin, I saw your face. What was that face?
No, it was reminding me. It was giving me like The Others, which is my favorite like scary movie.
Oh, that's really?
Scary movies. But
is that from our youth?
Yes.
I saw that one in the theater. Also, Big Nope. Never again.
We might have seen that together, Kim. So I think we would have been like 18 or 19 when it came out, I think. So I think I might have just finished working at Cinemark. I feel like I remember seeing that movie for free.
If it was free, I was probably there.
But so, yeah, Kim is not a horror person, but had to watch a lot of horror when we were teenagers because I would just be like, this is what we're watching. And then we would go see a horror movie or watch one in my basement.
I didn't hate it as much as I hate it now, but I do like the horror influences on the show. This doesn't bother me, but maybe, who knows why? I don't know. Let's move on.
Like, Stranger Things is as scary as Kim goes.
I guess that they were more like the ghosts that are kind of on a movie, because there's different types of ghosts. There's the ones that are sentient that can talk to you, and then there's the ones that are like a movie that left an imprint because the thing was so horrible that it just plays over and over again. And I like that because I think so often we do just get kind of like the sentient ghosts that you can more so interact with or save or whatever, release, or all that.
Yes. And because I want to talk about that at the end. Yes, I think that's like, I like how different this is. The little girl warns them. She tells them they can't do magic. In walks crazy evil Aunt Prudy, and she is pissed immediately, ties up the little girl. And I like, again, that it's a movie because Alice is like, stop doing that. And Prudence just looks at her, but keeps doing it. Like, she's not, this is the loop they are stuck in, right? Like, they can't really do anything about it. She says, she says her brother is too soft. Prudence says a lot of shit talking around the like molestation, right? Like, and she is poisoning these children because she doesn't want them to talk. And so we go back to Penny and Q, and Penny explains the ghost loop, right? He basically explains the plot of The Grudge and explains that like these spirits are, like you said, Angela, it's like a movie. They're just like, it's playing over and over again. We see them running through the house. They're like playing hide and seek or whatever. And
wait, can we talk about how he knows this because he's quoting some person with a PhD in haunting from their lessons? Because I
I remember that.
Love that. I wrote down PhD in haunting.
Jim, why don't you have one of those?
Right? Esme wants to be a doctor of pretty dresses someday. Maybe I can convince her to be a doctor of hauntings instead.
Hauntings. That would be cool.
Both hauntings and pretty dresses.
Hauntingly beautiful dresses.
Yes. So I forget, I also have a question for all of y'all. So like Quentin even knows when the kids run by what they're doing, right? Like he knows, oh, those are the housekeeper's kids that the chat they were taking care of. Does he know that because it's in the books, or he knows that because he just knows Plover's life story?
Well, they just went through the tour and they talked about it on the tour, how the housekeepers, he took in the housekeeper. They were there. No, the Martin and Jane. He's like, oh, Martin and Jane, of course, are here because they would come and hang out at XYZ time. I think it just, like, you'd look up real life stuff about Sarah Michelle Gellar because you're into her life kind of thing.
Yeah. Well, that's what I'm wondering, because, like, at this point, and even, like I said, I've watched the whole season already, like, twice. I get a little blurry on, so the Fillory books are based on the real life children. Like, Martin and Jane are the kids in the books. Yes. And, like, they are, like, almost one for one the kids up to a point, right?
Well, this is very similar to, Alice in Wonderland. The guy that wrote Alice in Wonderland lived next door to a young girl, Alice, and people wonder if there was a weird... This is very reminiscent of that actual life event kind of thing. People talk about... Who wrote Alice in Wonderland? Why is that?
Lewis Carroll.
Lewis Carroll. So people talk about that, was he a little weird with this girl, Alice, that lived next door? And that's something that, I don't know. I've heard that conversation as I've become an adult, and this kind of mirrored that, because Alice was a real little girl that lived next door to this man. And that's kind of what they're doing here with.
And Ian, I think your question is, I think people who are Fillory and Forever fans know that Jane and Martin and Rupert were real people.
Yeah.
Who lived next door to the Plovers. Like that, that's a fact. And they just thought that he made up the story about them for them, not that Fillory actually existed and they're coming back and telling him the stories and he's writing them in books.
Right.
Okay,
Yeah.
so that was what I was. I feel more confident in what I just said.
No, you're right, Kim.
So we get, what is it then? Penny uses the term nerdgasm on Quentin, and I was like, oh, God. That was one of those, like, terms that I'm so glad was banished to, like, 2000 and whatever. So they follow the kids.
This is where we see Martin not be able to get in, and he's like, oh, I tried so hard to be good. And then Plover kind of...
Yeah. Because he says, like, he's consoling Martin because they're the left behinds.
Yeah. And also, this is where Q and Penny get separated. And Penny just travels away.
I kind of like that. He's like pissed. Prudence gets him and puts him in the basement, and then he's like, all right, and he's fine. And so the little boy, Justin, what was his name?
George.
George. Yes, George. That's okay. I even watching this, I kept thinking in my brain, because it's a little boy and a little girl, I was like, oh, those are the Chatwins when they were younger. Oh, no, wait, these are the housekeeper's children. Like, we're adding other children so that they're spooky ghost children. So the boy, George, is like, we need to hide. She's coming. Penny gets brought into the whatever place. Quiet place, yes. Elliot is freaking out, untying him and Alice. The little girl fucking dies in front of them, and she's like, ooh, my tummy hurts, and then, like, pukes up blood. Like, Jesus.
I like a vaguely whimsical horror show. It's got to be Elliot who says it. I didn't affiliate it when I wrote it down. But
that really, like, is the show, though, right? Like, and I do, like, Elliot says it's so deadpan and shitty, but I kind of love it when he's like, well, I guess we know how she died. And it's just like looking at this like dead child. But Elliot is being realistic, right? Because she's a ghost. Like what they can't make it not happen. They get out of there.
This
Elliot
is the part sorry, go ahead about Elliot.
No, go ahead. No, you go ahead.
I was gonna go to the next part.
Yeah.
So I like that we get George and Quentin watching through that grate, which like brings us back to earlier when they were on the tour, and even when they're or when they were in the room and they're looking through the safe and letters and stuff, and we're watching them through the grate. I just really liked the parallelism between that point of view and us like actually like Q actually down there with George like watching this beginning of the awful scene between Christopher Plover and Martin.
Ugh.
I think it's so well done because you do. I mean, we don't because we know Christopher Plover, but like it does seem like, oh, this guy's just being nice to this kid because he was left behind.
Yeah,
and then it's so like,
importantly, Martin gives George the button before Christopher takes him into the room alone. I left that out. I'm sorry.
Right, because he does tell him like hide it. Right.
Mm-hmm.
I guess it was apparent to Jane and Martin that Christopher Plover really wanted to go to Fillory and they really wanted to keep him from there. So that's interesting.
Yeah. But also then, so if they are banned from Fillory, wouldn't the button not let them into Fillory? Like, wouldn't the ban be on everything, or is it just like
no?
Because it's
I think filler like I think if you've got the door, if you've got the key, if you've got the button, you can get in no matter what Fillory wants.
Mm-hmm.
That'd be my guess.
Fillory could kick you right back out if it felt like it, or it could let you stay there to play out an adventure. But
yeah, I'm not quite sure what. Then also Fillory would have to like. It probably depends on who's in charge at the time and like how much magic there is there, etc. etc. Right?
Fillory's just silly and quirky like that.
The way they do Christopher Plover here is the whole episode has such a good creepy vibe, and like the way he's like smiling like a nice old man the entire time, and like his demeanor doesn't change, I think adds to like how fucking terrible he was, right? Like Christopher Plover delivers the like, now take off your clothes the same way he delivers, oh, we're both left behind, let's go, sit in my room. Like he just is awful. And then his sister barges in, and is that her killing George? Is that like the moment she kills him, or does he just get knocked out? I wasn't sure.
I think his eyes were open.
Yeah, his eyes were open, so I couldn't tell.
Down to the quiet room.
And then buries him. Is that like...
Also, let's not forget to mention that Jane is in the room, just passed out from some tea when this is all happening.
Oh, yeah. He put her to sleep with the sleeping
Jesus. And like, and I think that it's Prudence that like, Prudence is like, it's so like sinister and fucking awful and really well done. I don't know. I like they really do the horror shit so well in this. And like, they don't need the thing that they do well, which I always later, I don't know that they do this so well. When there's scenes like this, I don't need it to, you don't need to see it to be like, oh, this is awful. I like that you hear it. He just says the thing and you're like, fuck. And you know it's awful. You don't need to like see the child trembling or whatever, because you know it's terrible. And I always think that's a better way to do any sort of like molestation or sexual assault, because it's like, okay, you know what's happening. I don't need to like see the terrible thing. You know what I mean? I mean, I say that, but then I love Scream where it's like they're cutting people in half. But like, it's different. It's
different, yeah.
Terrible sexual violence is like very much worse than like, oh, someone got stabbed. But yeah, I think it like still carries the weight of it without showing us. Like, and you watch Quentin just be like, oh my God, like, that's like a terrible thing to find out when you're going to tour your hero's house and then you learn your hero like molested fucking children. It's like, fuck.
Or just Martin again, we're not sure.
Right. Yeah. A child, but still, yeah. So
Either way,
she's
terrible.
like, she like kills this child. Quentin freaks.
We get some important information from George before he dies.
Yes.
So
Give us
just
the.
that they play like that all the time, and the pictures are in the dictionary, and just like a little. I like how they plant info in that way, like from George, right? Like the children they're trying to let the real life people know.
Yeah, because they're like very much aware of everything that's happening. Yeah, and I like that, Kim, that they are trying to help them kind of like I don't even know, like, right, like I don't know that the kids know exactly why our like magicians are there, but they like don't want them to get killed, right? Like they're like, oh well. A question I have is we get like this very cool specific shot outside the house from like a downward angle with like fog coming up from the house. Is that the same house that uses the exterior for the physical kids cottage? Because I think it is. Because it has the same like brick around with white top with the wood like slats paneling. And I was like, I would not be surprised if it is the same house they're using because, like, at this point, I think they were shooting in Vancouver. Like, I think the first few episodes they shot in New Orleans, I read, and then everything was in Vancouver. So I feel like it very well could be. It's impossible to find trivia on the show. There's, like, no trivia like that. But also, I'm spoiled by, like, right with Buffy. It's like, there are 85 points of trivia for every single episode. This is just a newer show that doesn't have the cult following that Buffy does. So I'll like go to an episode
like,
guide. I'm like
very similar.
Yeah.
Right.
Doesn't have the following yet.
So Kim, you just Google it because right, they are similar.
Yeah, and it's more like not the shape of the house necessarily. It's like the
same
white
style.
Yeah, the white with like the brown lines on the outside. I'm not an architecture. I'm bad at words. I don't know what words mean, things I want to say. It's why I'm a poet. I make things up. But yeah, it's probably the same house. They both have 2 chimneys. Oh no, wait, the Plover estate has like a billion chimneys. But yeah, it looks like very similar. Similar enough it probably is the same place.
Yeah.
Good.
Okay.
I did not catch that.
Yeah.
I'm proud of Justin. I was positive you were going to be like, yeah, I clocked that. I was positive
you would clock it. A lot was going on at this point in the show. I'm like, okay, let's just get through this.
Yeah. Q, what is it? Then we like Q and Alice and Elliot meet up outside. Penny was teleported to a tree. Q says the thing where he's like, generations of like kids worship this man and like he was actually drugging and raping children. Like, I do like Elliot's like, Jesus Christ. Like, Elliot, even in his like traumatized like state, he's even like, oh, that's fucking, awful.
And then
he's like more paying attention now, I feel like.
And then they come to the determination that Plover must be the beast. And therefore, they've got to get back in there to get the key. Like Q's like Quentin's like, we have to go get that key.
Because Plover says something that so again, I just rewatched this episode today. I have binged it. Plover does say something that they mention again in the finale when he says to do the magic he needs to do, you need an extra finger on each hand. And they do bring that back at the end. That like, yeah. So again, I like that we're like, so we're making these assumptions over who the beast is. It may or may not be correct. We don't know yet. Another thing I've noticed about this season, I mean, speaking of like, oh, he mentioned you have to have 6 fingers on each hand. This show, by the finale, does such a good job of like every little piece of the puzzle that we've been getting in every one of these episodes fully fucking connects.
Yeah.
And I don't know that a lot of shows do that well. Like, a lot of shows sometimes will have these 85 lingering things and like maybe 4 of them come back. But I do feel like this show does such a good job of every episode was telling us something that led us to the finale.
Yeah.
I don't know. I think that's like really good storytelling, right?
Yeah.
Because like, I think of even our beloved Buffy in season 7, they don't alter, they like have a lot of like when they go see the Beljox's eye and like Anya's like, oh no, we hurt the Slayer line, blah, blah, blah. And then we never go back to that. You know, when the first evil tells Dawn, like, you can't trust Buffy, we like don't really go back to that.
Or Angel, the Shroud of Ramon. I'll never forget that episode. Who cares?
Yes. Yeah, so I don't know. I think that's like an important point to point out. We then they encounter Prudence. They do like a trap of like, oh, we've put the pictures he took of Martin.
Yeah. Quentin's like, give me 10 minutes and then meet me at the cellar, and they're all like, fine. And yeah, then it's because he hid the pictures. They go into the cellar. They dig up the corpse.
Dig up George's corpse. They find the button. They go outside, and I really like this conversation outside. Because Elliot is being an asshole, but he's not incorrect about them not being able to do anything because these children are dead, right? Like, the bad things have already happened, and like Penny explained, it's like more like a lingering movie, like spirit of a spirit, not like the actual kids. It's like just like keeps happening. And I think like I also understand Alice, right? Because like you would be really upset watching like you saw these like ghost children getting fucking murdered and terrorized and poisoned and molested. Like you would want to like do something, but like it's already happened, so there's not really. I was thinking about how like in certain horror movies, the way this would have gone is, well, we do a thing to free the spirits. But I kind of like the grimness of there's nothing we can do. And they just fucking peace out. And then they're all like so grim when they get back home, understandably, because of what they just learned and saw. Yeah, I'm curious. I mean, again, I think it's like one of those morally gray areas that the show does well. Justin, what'd you think about that?
Well, it just sort of ties into the... Well, first off, I like the fact that Allison, throughout the episode, wanted to do something. Even when Beatrix died, she wanted to do something. I was like, no, you can't do anything. And I like the fact that they explained, because I would have been concerned that it's a classic haunting, which is what I guess they call that. But also, it's a time slip. So, yes, the ghosts can sort of interact, but it's sort of going back and forth between the two. So even when Alice is like trying to come up with ways to fix things, it's sort of tied into the whole thing with Kira and Julia.
Yeah.
Where Julia's like, maybe we can... No, just you gotta...
Yeah.
And that parallel happens a couple of times throughout the episode where, you know, Quentin's talking about how the Fillory books were an escape for him and they really helped him. But then you have Martin who wants to get back into Fillory to escape the beast. So, yeah.
Yeah, no, I like that. Angela, what did you think?
I liked it a lot. I mean, this episode made me feel very uneasy, actually, every time I've seen it. But it really, in its entirety, it's unfortunately for our reality, is something that I feel like a lot of us could relate to with some of our childhood heroes, and just who we come to find out they actually were, or even societally, like we don't even talk about the people that came before us. Like, I'm pretty sure Elvis married someone 15, and like, I mean, this, you know, when episodes like this come up on any show, it just really makes me think in the bigger sense of society. And like, but when it comes to the hauntings, that is a real thing. If you believe that ghosts are a real thing, there's different types of ghosts, and there's different types of hauntings, and there's different ways that you can remove, potentially release, or just have to completely consecrate and do something else entirely with the area. And sometimes the areas will never be, I mean, when you live so close to like different battlefields or whatever, those grounds are going to be walked by people. Will talk about the ghosts of that for forever. But then if you're really thinking about ghosts, like the entire earth is kind of haunted. I mean, would be haunted because someone has died everywhere, but not in a tragic way, hopefully, for really everyone. But I don't know. I think it's really, it is a really, really interesting take on ghosts and hauntings. And I think overall they did, and uncomfortable subjects in this, for everything that this episode is, I would agree it's done very, very well.
Yeah, there's a sort of like lightness. I like, Justin, how you pointed out the parallel there. There's a sort of lightness in the Julia and Richard conversation where she says, "What am I supposed to do?" And he says, "The hardest thing," right? And like there's an incredible darkness and anger that the same thing is really said at the end of this episode, where Elliot finally drunk, which we don't actually get to see him drunk. So he drinks a lot, but like,
right, yeah,
he's actually capital D drunk here, and it's just like mean and not wrong, but just cruel in the way that he's described. And I really like Quentin coming to defend Alice in that moment. I like what I don't remember exactly what he said, but I'm proud of him for sticking up for her.
I think he just tells Ellie to shut the fuck up.
Yeah,
and
well,
then he like kind of consoles Alice.
Yeah. At the same time, I didn't love the kids watching from the window in the background on like a personal, like, oh, yucky kind of level, because that makes us more relate to Alice. And also, they hid the pictures all around the house. The house is still there. The tour guide is mysteriously dead. But there's got to be other people that work for the estate.
Right, yeah.
And so I'm curious, like, could someone just say, like, well, maybe people that didn't know the things will come in and find the pictures and, like, bring them to the news, and maybe that will set them free. Like, it seems like there's a way, like, they could have kept one of the, I don't know. They could call the London Scotland Yard. I don't know what is that what the police are called in London? They could have called someone and be like, hey, like this guy, like this happens, like XYZ. You know, they could have done something like that. And I wish that like I know we didn't have time for that, but like in my head, I'm like, why didn't they at least mention that to make her feel better?
Yeah. No, yeah, I get that. So they all go home. They're all like very somber and like sad. Penny is like, let's look at this button. And like, Penny's such an asshole because Quentin's like, oh, well, don't. And he's like, don't talk to me like I'm you. I'll disappear if I want to. Touches it and immediately disappears. And I do love that we end on Quentin saying, I told him not to do that. And that's the end of the episode. So like I said, I think this episode does a good job of, it's progressing our overall plot, but it is like a standalone episode, like kind of contained with the story it's telling. It's not, and then it still has like a beat where it's like, ooh, next episode. But it's not like you don't understand the episode out of like you still can like talk about the episode out of context, which that is my favorite kind of storytelling with shows like this, where it's like it can do well out of context, but it fits in the like overall arc of the story, which is again something Buffy did really well. All right, well, now that we're at the end of favorite scene, Justin.
I think I'm gonna go with a Penny story because it was just so right. Penny. It was him.
Okay. Kim?
I think I like when they're revisiting the house. There's just a couple little scenes in that. I don't know if it's like one full one, but I like when we get through the grate and then we get through the grate again. Like I like that parallelism. And then I like just the interaction they have when they're kind of first discovering how we go from the height of Quentin being like the happiest he's ever been to like, oh no, like something messed up happened. And I'm sure there's something from the Julia arc that I could say, but the other stuff's just so important to like other stuff that I feel like it's hard to choose something from there.
That's fair. Angela?
I like when they're first at the Plover House on the tour. Like, I just find it comedy, quiet before the storm. Like, it's such heavy material throughout this content throughout this whole episode that little tour and the humor that was in there with Quentin trying to basically, but actually did it and the tour guide like, not one of these fucking guys, you know, like that. I think that's necessary. Otherwise it's just like, oh my god, do I need to go write in my diary about this?
Right, yeah.
like I think it's needed a little bit, and so that's gonna be what I go with.
That's fully fair. So I know I talked about loving the ghost story so much and like the horror of it all, but I think my favorite is genuinely like Julia and Kira, and when she's like, I need you to do one more thing, and we go from like the lights turning off in Kira's park to like Julia crying. I just thought that was so fucking well done. And again, like all of this episode very much is like very good at like all of this will be important, and that is so important to Julia's character moving forward. Favorite outfit, Kim?
I'm gonna go with Kira's outfit when they're in the park.
Okay.
Her hair looks great. Like I like the contrast of what Julia's wearing, which is more dull and gray, and then what Kira's wearing, which is really bright and happy, especially considering what we know happens. So I thought that those were just really good costuming choices both, and particularly loved Kira's outfit there.
Angela?
Elliot, just everything Elliot wears. I love Elliot's style. Like
right, and it looks so clean and crisp all the time.
Yeah, it's just so. If I was a boy, I would wear. That would be my aesthetic. I would figure it out. I don't even understand. There's got to be a vest, and perhaps like a pocket watch or something happening. I don't know. He's just so. I love it.
Everything just looks like it was just freshly pressed. I mean, it's a TV show, so it probably was, but right, it's all like the jackets he wears, like they don't have like a wrinkle in them.
No,
like
Elliot has a steamer. I know
it.
He's got that.
Him and Margot fully would have like a magic steamer where they just like put a piece of clothing in it and it comes out perfectly like looking. Justin, what was your favorite outfit?
I have to go with Kira's outfit too. I think it's the perfect marriage between like a character that we don't know much about and her backstory that we do learn about. It just fits her. That's what that character would be wearing.
Yeah, and I feel like it says a lot that like this is even Kira is in it even less than most side characters for just one-off episodes are, but she still does like impact at least this episode. And like we're all talking about, you're all talking about like her outfit and we're talking about her scenes, and I think that says a lot to the writing and acting of her character in this. And like the way she bounced off Julia and that stuff. My favorite outfit was Alice's. This is kind of cheating because weirdly, this is almost the exact same outfit she wears in the first episode, which I love.
Weirdly, I feel like she always wears almost the same-ish outfit, but go on.
That like
but like she'll wear like a schoolgirl skirt and like a top, but like this is like the black dress with the white Peter Pan collar. In the first episode, this is how much of a nerd because, as you know, I make figures of the thing. In the first episode, she doesn't have the white cuffs on her sleeves. In this one, she does, so it is slightly different. And she's wearing different shoes. She has black like heel boots on, and in the first episode, it's like beige heel boots. Hello, I'm a big fucking nerd.
Before we go to grades, can I know?
And so I think she looks really fucking good in them.
Did to make sure that was really my favorite outfit. The very last pick, the actors that play Quentin, Alice, Penny, and Elliot, and the two child actors smiling outside the Plover estate, and it is just incredible. Like, if you have to look at this IMDb photo, because I don't know if it makes what we just watched slightly unnerving.
Grade, Kim, what grade do you give this episode?
We're gonna go A-. I feel like every episode I've been on has been in the A range. Like, I don't know, minus for like ticky-tacky little things that just kind of, I don't even have a good reason. I just don't, an A, because terrible things happen in it that the show does really well. I don't know. A-.
And we know how, I feel like, and we know how good it can get. Justin, what grade do you give this episode?
I like the casting of Charles Shaughnessy, Mr. Sheffield. That was it freaks me out a little bit to even say that.
Wild.
Yeah,
I know.
But Jason Ralph's acting, I loved it so much. But I'm gonna give it A-.
All right, that's fair. Angela,
solid A.
Okay.
I'm gonna go with that. I think it's a really, really, really well done, really, really uncomfortable to this day episode. So
yeah. I give it an A- as well, but only because I know the episodes that will be my A+, and I don't love this one as much as those, but I still think this is a really good episode. And so thank you all for joining me. Thank you all for listening. If you like Slayerfest 98, you can find us on all podcasting platforms like YouTube, Spotify, Apple Podcasts, anywhere else you get your podcasts. Remember to subscribe and give us a good rating. And if you want to support the podcast, you can find us on Patreon, where we are currently going through, maybe finished by the time this comes out, Buffy Season 3 for its 25th anniversary. We've gone through Harley Quinn and Firefly, and there's a bunch of extra bonus content. Any and all support is much appreciated. You can also be part of our Discord for any tier you subscribe to. yeah, and we're always chatting over there. If you want to follow us on social media, we are at SlayerFestX98 on all platforms, and I am Ian X Carlos on all platforms. Justin, where can everyone find you?
I am Justin in brief on all platforms.
And Angela, where can everyone find you?
I am Angela MFN Rockstar on IG, at Angela Rockstar on TikTok, MRS_a Rockstar at Twitter, and yeah, I'm just around.
Kim, where can everyone find you?
I'm at Kim and Joe South on most platforms, and you can find stuff about my other life as a poet and writer at KimberlyAndSouthwick.com.
All right, everyone, we will see you next time. Bye.